Hi, Deidre here from Our Upcycled Life. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is right full of thrift store finds that I've upcycled into some beautiful home decor. And I think you're going to really like these projects. These are some of my favorites. So, got lots of work. Let's get started. First project that we're going to be working on today is this ceramic vase that I picked up at the thrift store. We're going to give it some real farmhouse vibes. I'm going to take it outside and give it a spray of black flat spray paint first. This is going to make my chalk paint adhere better. Just going to give it a really light coat. Once it's completely dry, I'm going to paint my chalk paint on top of it. This is my homemade chalk paint and I love this recipe. If you haven't tried it, I'll put a link down below in the description for the video on how to make it. And it's so easy to do and it's really affordable. After my first coat has dried, I'm going back in with my second coat and I'm sponging it on. It just kind of gets rid of any of those brush marks. I want to make the milk pop a little bit, so I've just put some black chalk paint on the end of this sponge and I'm just sponging it on top of those letters. And then once it's dry, I'm going to go back in with my paintbrush and just clean it up around the edges so we just have that black paint on the letters. I think it's easier to clean it up after than try to freehand that paint right on those letters. And once I have that all done, I'm going to go back in with a piece of sandpaper and just sand it down to that black spray paint so it almost looks like a galvanized pail. I have this label maker that I picked up. I'm going to cut a piece of just white paper that I printed off this cow font on, take a black marker, go around the edges so it looks a little bit distressed. And we're going to make a little hang tag for this milk jug. Poke a hole in the top so we can string some twine through it, and then we're going to tie it on the top of this milk jug. I've got some wooden beads that I painted that I think match this really well. I'm going to add a couple to the little tag, stringing it through the twine. I have a little trick painting my beads. If you haven't seen that video, you need to give it a watch because you can paint beads so fast. Added a little bit of twine to the top and I'm going to tie on this piece of fabric that I had in my scrap pile. And I've created this really cute little farmhouse ceramic milk jug that I think looks way better updated. Next project, rolling pins. I always pick up rolling pins because there's so many different ways to update them and upcycle them. I love painting the handles and I love doing it in this farmhouse red color. I went to a little store to pick up a card for a friend and this was the bag that they put it in. I just love it. It's like old newspaper print. We're going to upcycle this and I'm going to decoupage it onto the rolling pin. I cut out a piece of the bag that's the same size as a rolling pin. I'm misting it with a little bit of water. That just helps mold it around the rolling pin. Going to put on some Mod Podge mat and press that bag into that rolling pin with a little bit of Mod Podge, putting it underneath, folding it over, and then putting on the top. You don't need very much, and just working out the bubbles and wrinkles as you go. And I just love this upcycle. This is going to look perfect in a basket in the kitchen with maybe some kitchen utensils and a tea towel. I just love this little stool. You see so many of these pieces with the hearts on them, and I am going to embrace that heart and I'm going to upcycle it and just make it look so it's not as 90s. Now I filled in the little holes along the side because the little wooden plugs were missing, sanded them down flat, and then I took it outside and I spray painted it with some black spray paint. We're going to do a distressed painting technique on this with some candle wax. These are just candles that I picked up at the dollar store, a pillar candle and a taper candle, and I'm really aggressively rubbing it all over this stool because I want it to have a really distressed look. Wherever you put candle wax, when you paint on top of it, that paint is not going to stick in that little spot. So when you sand it down, you're going to see the color of the paint underneath, creating that chippy finished look. And I like to layer up a couple different colors to get a really chippy finish. So I've layered up some green, put on candle wax, let that dry, put on more candle wax. Now I put on the yellow. We're going to let that completely dry. Then we're going to put on some more candle wax, and then we're going to put on some white chalk paint. So I'm going to have 4 different colors on this stool, but hang tight because when it's all finished, you'll see how gorgeous it is. Once everything's all dry, you can take your heat gun, heat up that wax a little bit, take the scraper to it, and then I sand it down with some 80 grit sandpaper. I have this farmhouse graphic that I designed, and I wanted the bottom portion of the graphic to be a little bit bigger, so I printed it off on 2 different sheets so it would fit better. We're using our Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method, printed these off on my LaserJet printer, making sure to reverse the graphic. This one's available in my Etsy store, and it's already reversed, ready to use. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link down below in the description. I let it sit for 24 hours, and then I took a damp rag and I wet the graphic until you could just start to see the graphic show through, and then you rub off the paper. I'm going to seal this all up with a water-based polyacrylic sealer so it's nice and durable. And how beautiful is this? I embraced that heart in the bottom. We added that farmhouse graphic on the top. The chippy paint is fantastic. I love this upcycle. I found this glass plate at the thrift store. It was like 50 cents. I had to bring it home with me. But how many glass trays can you actually use in your kitchen? So I'm going to show you how you can upcycle this into a piece of home decor. Now with glass, you want to spray it with some primer first so the paint will stick really well. I put some BIM primer on, let it dry, and then I went back in with my homemade white chalk paint. Going to do a graphic just like we did on our stool with our Mod Podge reverse graphic transfer method. Making sure that it's reversed if you're putting the text on there. We let it sit for 24 hours, and then we're going to rub off the paper. I just love the way that this turned out, and I make these all the time as gifts. You can personalize them, so many ideas, and you can always find these at the thrift store, really priced reasonably. This is such a simple upcycle, but I absolutely love the way that it turned out. Always see wooden bowls at the thrift store, always pick them up, and this bigger bowl fit into this smaller one. So I decided to make it like a tiered bowl, hot glued them together, got out my stash of beads, and I just put beads around the bottom between those 2 bowls with some hot glue, alternating between some marbled beads that I had black and white and some black and gray. And how beautiful is this? And super simple, super easy. So I hope you've enjoyed today's upcycles and I've given you some inspiration. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. And if you love this video, I'm sure you'll love either of these next 2. Take care.